Good nods.
Boom. Get some music going.
Boom. They can
Maybe
hear us.
something better. Yep.
Oh, yeah. I like this one.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We have to get millennial Stinkface in there at least once per episode. So
Yes. Austin, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. I was a little nervous because it's a little choppy on my end. Is it choppy for you?
Yeah, just a little bit, but it's
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Welcome to 2026. We're in choppy land.
Yeah, it always amazes me to be in 2026 and still have basic communication challenges like internet and connectivity when we have fiber and can talk to people on the moon and all of that. But we're all doing our best.
Dead zones for cell phones when I'm driving. How does that happen? There's no residential fiber for downtown Troy. How do we make that happen? It's yes. Like, can we fix it, please?
There is an argument to get a data center in your city because it will help with your fiber infrastructure.
Fair.
You can figure out the downsides, the other sides, but
that's a different conversation than today, I think.
Different show, maybe.
Different show.
Well, how's your week in ecosystem building? What have you been doing? What's the latest?
My week has been very busy, but very good busy. And I'm the type of person where if I'm not looking at my calendar, it's not real. If it's not on my calendar, it's not real. It just like leaks out of my brain. And so looking at my calendar, we had a really great 1 million cups. Of course, we do that every Wednesday morning. This past Wednesday, we actually had Heidi Knobloch come and give us a educational session on raising capital, what that looks like for startups, for founders, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of that fun stuff, right? And who should do it and who shouldn't. And so that was very educational and useful for both me and the community. That was awesome.
Did you get into any fund related specifics, or
we did some like fund math and economics and like what makes sense as what fund managers are looking for, right? What is investable, what venture math looks like at a large scale, just so folks have realistic expectations. And I think that's awesome. But how was your week?
It's been good. We did a big public push for Startup Week where we had some issues with our email tool that are finally resolved. Learned a lot in AI and building, and yeah, that's been an interesting process, a really fun process, but sometimes you uncover a bug when you try to send a big email list and you hit rate limits, and then you have to be like, hey, AI, I did this and this happened, help. But yeah, we had a big week for Startup Week, both internally and externally, starting to get some submissions. Kind of context here is we're doing a lot of community input gathering of what sessions do they want to hear, what speakers do they want to hear. And so people can apply to speak, but we can also have our community say, hey, I think you should have Richard. He's really good at talking about this. And I'm connected to him on LinkedIn. Let me know if you need help getting him in. So then we can go and pursue those people, or even from a topical standpoint, like, hey, I'm struggling with this right now. It'd be really great if there was a topic on this subject. So yeah, taking a very communal, user-driven, bottoms-up approach. So that way we can make it as valuable as possible. Other things in the ecosystem, I think that was the big thing for me this week, where we've been spending a lot of time. So yeah, that's my main update.
It's cool. Yeah, I don't know where I'll be for GW, but somewhere, definitely doing something for GEW. So we'll see.
If you don't have anything local, come to Louisville.
That's on my list.
Awesome.
I don't right now, and it's such a heavy lift to do a GEW in our community. Rochester did a great one last year with Ryan Williams. He was the um, IEDC Economic Recovery Core Fellow that they put in Rochester, and so he did a fantastic job, knocked it out of the park. We don't have someone like that in our community in the capital region, but there's an opportunity for a GEW event through a fellowship program, getting some students this fall. They are going to focus on celebrating entrepreneurship, advancing entrepreneurship, and telling that story in the capital region. And so one of their things they can choose to do as a group is host GEW for our community. And so if they choose to do that, we will have one, which will be great.
Cool.
So yeah, that's a
Good.
good question. Let us know if
you're
you guys
watching. Drop it in the comments, chat. What do you call it? I don't know.
I don't know.
I guess
Hey, chat.
it
Is
would
that what
be
the kids
chat
say?
on YouTube. Yeah.
I don't know.
We're doing
Hey,
great.
chat. That's what the streamers say, right? Anyway,
Awesome. Well, Richard, we got some folks in the green room, if you will, ready to come on air. So let's go ahead and bring them up. And while they come up, maybe an introduction, how they're connected to you, and who we have today.
nice. Yeah, let's welcome Lucas and Hannah to the stage here. I snuckered them into this last minute, so thank you guys for joining us. Lucas, as you can see, is a gift to us and everyone else, and Hannah is the self-proclaimed mom and pop marketer. But I was literally on a call with them prior to this, and we were looking for guests, and I was like, "Hey, please come," and they're like, "Yes, okay." And so they both are 1MC organizers with me in the capital region, along with many of the other things they do. So I would love for them to introduce themselves, tell us, who you are, what you do. Lucas, why don't you start?
Yes. All right. So my name is Lucas Terwilliger. I serve as the vice president for the Rensselaer County Regional Chamber of Commerce. I've been there just over 3 years, entering into my 4th year, and I met Richard a few months into the job, and Richard's just been he's been the real gift, is what I'd like to say. He helps increase
I agree
our
with that.
visibility in the region. He helps build ecosystems, in the capital region, connecting the counties, connecting different startups, connecting different industries, and really helping us fulfill our mission. He serves as an ambassador for us, and is always introducing me to wonderful people. So I'm very grateful for the relationship that I've been able to form with him over time. Hannah, who also hopped on today, I've recently met through Richard. Again, look at him building that ecosystem, right? Hannah's wonderful. I've really enjoyed getting to know her company a little bit about her. And I'm excited. She's coming to a conference that I'm going to next week for chamber executives. So my boss and I will be heading down to New Orleans for a chamber conference, and then we'll be headed out to the 1 Million Cup Summit. So I'm going to get to spend a couple weeks with Hannah and a week with Richard, and really looking forward to that.
Hey.
Yes. Hannah.
Richard, I updated your headline.
Oh,
So really
stop. I feel like that's going to change throughout the show, but
I think
what a
you have
fun
to
time.
think about who the bringer of gifts is. Who is it? Obvious. Don't take the obvious, non-fun, belted, red velveted one. Come up with another one. But I think he's the gift bringer. Yeah, I'm Hannah, and I am preparing to spend a couple weeks on the road with these two lovely gentlemen, among others, between ACE, which is a chamber conference, and the 1 Million Cup Summit. So I am a founder who is currently seeking to partner with chambers, looking for design partners who are organizational and have members who are owner-operator businesses that might, a significant percentage of them identify as mom and pop. So think about the businesses that are your absolute favorite to patron on vacation when you pull off the highway, the ones that sponsor the Little League, that give your town fabric, that keep your main street busy, that populate your childhood memories. They are going out of business because they cannot be found online. They are easy to miss. So theoretically, I worked in corporate marketing previous to this. I'm a go-to-market strategist. So it's a little bit of the how do we get people things that they need, and in which way are we going to go about it efficiently and effectively and so that everybody sees the most benefit. Really, it's like, how do you visibly realize value? So my job is to some extent walk through this world helping people visibly realize value, which is a very fun thing to do. I passionately feel like people are the makers of magic. And I'm a protector of human whimsy. So it's a very cool thing to be a founder at a company that uses a lot of AI tooling, that arguably is AI tooling, in a time when what does it mean to be a person is a very fun thing to have on the conversation table again. Happy to be here.
Excited to have you.
Thank you.
So when Richard and I were talking about, well, what do we talk about today prior to him inviting you all? I was like, well, we could talk about marketing and ecosystem building, and how do we do that better as both ecosystem builders, and then how does that even translate into those that we support? I was like, or we could talk about AI and ecosystem building. And he's like, I'm on a call, I'm just going to bring them in. And I'm like, well, this makes sense, because this is exactly what you just said, right? Of like, how do we get better at marketing? How do we utilize AI and in this work to get better, knowing that these entrepreneurs that we're supporting are in a ever changing world just like us. And if we're going to build community, we need the community to be around and to exist and to not be operating in survival state. And so how can we offer support and services, and also model that behavior and share what we're learning with them so they can stay alive and thrive and continue to support the Little League teams, right? So super excited to have you on. And Richard, great setup. I don't know how you do it. I was like, we could do this. And he's like, actually.
Let me tell you. Yeah, exactly. No, it's so good. So good. Austin, so on the show, we haven't really had a conversation yet around chambers or mom and pop businesses or small businesses, really, right? We have some of, these two fantastic brains in the room. Are there any burning questions you have around those topics you want to throw at them first?
Yeah. So I think the first question is, a topic that we've discussed quite a bit locally is like, well, when you look at the chambers of commerce and how historically they have gone after, like, how do you bring in bigger companies and win these bids, or supporting Main Street, but like entrepreneurship from like the early stages wasn't a big part of that publicly, even though the conversations were happening. And so I'd be curious, as you what is your chamber perspective on supporting entrepreneurs and startups, and how are you approaching that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Austin. So our organization is, let me give you a little background on the organization. We're I'd say mid-sized chamber at 600 members. We are a regional chamber. Yes, we are located in Rensselaer County in upstate New York. However, we do service a larger geographic region, including the entire Capital District. And we have members in Berkshire counties in Massachusetts, down in New York City. So it really runs the gamut with that. Another demographic we should talk about is the membership composition based upon employee count, which is how we as an organization choose to charge for dues. Some chambers have tiered with different levels of membership and different services provided each. Part of our core values is that we're equally serving. And so what we offer to our smallest member is also available to our largest member. 80% of our members have 50 or less employees. And if you break that down even further, if you look at it on a micro level, and we're talking about small business today, 60% of our membership has 10 or less employees. So that makes up a substantial amount of the businesses that we service. Within the greater capital region, there are 15 chambers. We are known as the small business chamber. We also have a little bit of a name out there for being the nonprofit chamber and helping and supporting those kind of organizations. But what we found along this journey, and I'm still learning. I'm 3 years in. My boss is 3 years in. Our staff is all less than 1 year of experience, other than the two of us full timers. And we're a team of 4 full time and 2 part time and a couple of interns throughout the year. And what we're finding is that historically we've not really engaged with the entrepreneurship startup population. What we're finding is there's a lot of opportunity and value to that. It aligns with our organization's kind of MO with the small business, right? But I also see a lot of upside for scalable startups and supporting them in the very very early stages of their businesses could lead to very large returns as they grow rapidly. And so for us, we're starting to lean more into that this year, engaging with programs like 1 Million Cups and Richard's, leadership as an organizer of that and convincing me to hop on, and the partnership that we have with 1 Million Cups is bringing us members who are all entrepreneurs who, may have a startup and they see value in the chamber. And so we're realizing that this population is out there that needs us, that we can support, that is, consistent with that small mom and pop shop that already makes up a large percentage of our membership. And so we're going to continue to learn and grow. Going to Summit, I think, is going to be very helpful. Participating in 1 Million Cups has been helpful, but I think we are just at the very beginning of leaning into that. Other chambers do have more established programming specifically for entrepreneurship. I'll shout out Mark Egan and the Capital Region Chamber. They have a great entrepreneurship boot camp that they run. Or Richard is a judge on that. And as you can see, that's, his involvement in multiple chambers within the same industry. But we all like to work together. We all like to work collaboratively. We're all a little bit different, but share the common DNA of wanting to enhance the economic vitality of the regions that we serve, which is essentially the core of our missions.
That's awesome. Hannah, curious if you have anything to add.
To how the chamber supports. I mean, so I'm a recent introduction to, you could argue, recent to this year, introduction to the concept of really how chambers work at an actual hands-on understanding level, like walking into a chamber, speaking to people who work at chambers. That is something that I am 365 days or less on the job at. The Rensselaer Chamber, I have been able to attend several events, meet a lot of members, become part of the organizing group for 1 Million Cups, and see how hands-on they are with actual local community members who either work at a small business or maybe they don't. They work at a larger business and they're working on an entrepreneurial concept. And maybe that is a small business concept, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's like a venture scale concept. And I have watched the chamber meet those people all the same, with the same seriousness and intent to help and connect and be like, oh, you have a venture scale concept? I know this person who's connected to the venture readiness program. I watched the new head of membership chat with somebody at a networking event last night that the chamber hosted, where he was like, oh, you need to meet this other person who I know has a connect for an internship program at the local university here, RPI, because it sounds like you're looking for something that they know similarly. So the Rensselaer chambers are often at this sort of resource apex point where they know a lot of people, have access to a lot of information, and some of that information is also resources, and they know which of those doors has an actual resource behind it. And I have watched them very equitably provide access to doors to people who are looking to do startup shaped things as opposed to small business shaped things, which is more arguably the calling of a chamber. So I would argue Rensselaer Chamber is really putting their neck out a little bit on the line for their local startup community. One can say, and I'm hoping that it pays off in wild, huge, flaming dividends of glory, so that they can use this as a model for others and blaze a bright path forward where we can see more scope for creativity for small business to a larger scale. But yeah, that's all I would have to say on that.
That's awesome. Richard, go ahead. Saw you on mute.
Yes, right. Rensselaer Chamber, me too. Double tap on the more recent addition to the world of chambers. I started my business 11 years ago and really just engaged with a chamber, and it was Rensselaer Chamber and then Capital Region Chamber more recently in the past 2-3 years. And so really what I've seen firsthand is that the chambers are the places that are the nodes of connection, that are the people and the institution that have the institutional knowledge and relationships with a mission to support businesses in general. And that's been such a fantastic, I think, organization and structure and way of being for an organization like that. So I really appreciate everything that chambers do as a whole, and the mission and the work that you do, Lucas, and your team in supporting business owners like myself, like Hannah, like everyone else, right? That you have um, the interactions with. So thanks.
Yes, thank you for the kind words. We love what we do. We work really hard as an organization. Sometimes we work harder, not smarter, but we're working on being smarter, not harder. But ultimately, our objective is to service our members. And if it takes a little bit of extra elbow grease to do that effectively, we're the chamber for you. We're here for you. We're here to support you. And your testament there, you have me thinking about something now, and I'm going a little. And there's no script. I was going to say I'm going off script. There's no script. What am I talking about, right? I was talking with Sandra, one of our other 1 Million Cups organizers. She had organized a community walk and networking and ice cream event earlier this week, and we went for a
That's
walk at
fun.
People's Island State Park, and then we went over and got some ice cream at Snowman and had a great time. And she's in the travel industry. And I was talking to her, and like, I don't really, I don't see the value in travel agents. And now I'm coming back to that and saying, you know what, that's a great metaphor for what chambers are, right? We are the travel agent of the business community. We're here to connect everybody and help them navigate this complex system of relationships, of politics, of all sorts of challenges and regulations. And we are that resource to help with those things. We don't have all the answers ourselves, but we always know the person that does. And we're going to save you a lot of time and headache in that process. So if you're a business owner, you value your time, go to a chamber, join your local chamber, join your regional chamber, and they will help you navigate systems, processes, and procedures. I do want to clarify one thing since we are live on air. The Rensselaer Chamber is a apolitical organization. So we have great working relationships with all of our elected officials, both Republicans, Democrats, independents alike. We feel our role is to bring access to those folks, right? We're not here to back legislation. We are not here to back a specific candidate. We're here to help the business community. And the way we do that best is connect you to their staff, to them directly, provide panel discussions, forums for them to come and talk to our members, hear what's going on in their communities that they represent, and let people make their own decisions based upon their values and what they believe. So there's my 30-second disclaimer.
You provide the universal coattails of goodwill. What does it mean to become a member? Like, what does it mean to be part of a community, whether you buy into it or you're born into it or you join one through, cult, activity? What does it mean to be a member? And it means that you get to ride on the goodwill coattails of other members of your community. And so if the job of a chamber is to create an environment that is conducive to collaboration and openness and cooperation and understanding so that people can approach difficult things that might have been difficult to approach in an environment not fostered over a long period of time with a lot of favors and favorability, by a chamber, then maybe it would look like some of the towns across the US that don't have chambers.
How do you
know
all
what you just described?
Go ahead.
Do you know what you just described, Hannah? Like
No.
ecosystem building. Right.
Yeah,
Like, it
probably.
just hit me now, and I see it in Austin's face. Like, chambers are inherently, and they never say this, and it's not part of vocabulary, but they are organizations that do ecosystem building. The staff and team at a chamber, you're all ecosystem builders. You are all working to grow business and entrepreneurship and the entrepreneurial ecosystem in the greater Rensselaer County and Capital Region here. And no one ever says that or calls that out. And I never made that connect either until now, really, that is what it is, because ecosystem builders build trust and relationships and share that with the folks that they support and help.
Yeah, my question that I had in my head queued up next was well, why should startups become members? But I feel like with both of your previous answers, I'm like, I think you kind of answered that, right? Of the connectors, the navigating, the saving the time, in the founder's experience where they're just trying to stay focused and I don't want to navigate all this crap. Well, you don't have to. And so I think one follow-up question I would have is how do you all differentiate yourselves as a chamber from others in the ecosystem, like SBDC or other things? Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that they do differentiate inherently by knowing the resources. Like as a startup founder who's joining the Rensselaer Chamber, they do have, I mean, I literally was introduced to Lucas based on an introduction that happened at a New York Ventures event. So like those relationships have been fostered. Like that ecosystem already exists. And I can get if as a chamber member, there will be networking events that have people from potentially New York Ventures or who know somebody there or from other organizations that I might want to know people at who could have access to information about resources that I might be qualified for in the future. Like that's kind of the game here, I guess. And for most small businesses and even medium-sized businesses, you'd argue the chamber sets themselves up to know about those things. Like they work with the IDA, they work with their local organizations. For startups, that's typically not true. Like they don't know about the pre-seed and seed funds. They don't know about venture readiness programs. They don't know about startup communities, but like the Rensselaer Chamber does. Like that is one of their major differentiators, I would say. Whether they maybe intended it that way or not, that is a follow-up question to Lucas, whether or not he realized what he was extending the Rensselaer Chamber into. Because I would say this is entirely his pursuit, and maybe Richard gets given credit for it, but I have only been around a short period of time, these two fine gentlemen, but I can tell you that Lucas definitely leads the Rensselaer Chamber's fierce defense of startups and pursuit of knowledge for resource information for them.
Yeah, no. So Austin, I'll try to add on to her response. And Hannah, thank you again for the kind words. You know, you're articulating everything so well. It's hard to follow up with that. But I would say that I think going back to Austin's question, how we differentiate ourselves in the market with, you know, the SBDC, the IDA, with different VC options, all these different things that are out there for any business at any level to explore. I think history is the thing that stands out to me. We've been around 126 years. We are well versed in facing various economic times, right? Our chamber was around, founded in 1900. So we saw depressions, world wars. We saw, major changes in politics and trends. We saw the emergence of technology. We survived the COVID pandemic. Some chambers had to merge through COVID pandemic. So there are a lot of things that we have experience with. And I think it's the community, again, going back to ecosystems, right? That's the difference that the chamber has compared to some of these other entities. You know, the SBDC has a great partnership with us. They actually come, Tom Reynolds, one of their representatives, he comes and does consulting with small businesses and startups and people looking to even just throw out the idea, I have an idea, it might be a business. And he'll sit down and talk with them and talk about how to start a business from an LLC standpoint, C Corp, S Corp, all of the different options, opportunities out there. And he comes to this side of the river and we host him because he understands that for whatever ridiculous reason, people in the greater capital region see the Hudson River as this big divide, right? And you got Albany County on one side, you got Rensselaer County on one side, and it's just absurd. I'll say something that, we just redesigned our logo, and it was based upon a comment that one of the greatest philanthropists in the capital region said, 7 bridges, 1 river, right? There are 7 bridges that connect between Rensselaer County and Albany County. And Saratoga County, right? A little bit too. But the waterway shouldn't be a situation or a geographic barrier that tears us apart and says, oh, well, we're Albany people, we're Troy people, we're whatever you might be from people. It should be something that binds us. Waterfront development's a huge opportunity. The state's very interested in it. Regional government at the county level and local level are all very interested in it. And it's a way we can collaborate, right? And bring the community together. But I go back to the differentiation of, that history, and having these relationships that we've built and seeing it all. So I think, compared to a SBDC, and we love Tom, we love what he does, right? We can talk about things at a different, more local, hyper local level. He's going to have national data at his fingertips because of the resources that they have. We don't, as a small staff, very honestly, transparently, have that. What do? I say, Tom, I need data on this. I have a company who's joining and they're wondering about XYZ statistics. And it's a wonderful thing. Within, a couple of days, 61 pages of information about this shows up in my email. And I send it off to a member. And they're a resource for our members adjacent to us. So I think collaborating, right? It works as one ecosystem. And working together is what helps chambers lift everybody up. But ultimately, we're the glue that brings it all together.
Mm-hmm. One interesting thing. So this whole concept of like, why are we divided by water and rivers? Like this came up last week. It came up in Augusta. Like it's a recurring theme of like this geographic like entity that is perceived as a divider when historically rivers were actually the great connector, where it was easy to connect cities because of these rivers and waterways that could connect a Pittsburgh to a Louisville, right? And how many of our cities exist because of these waterways being a part of our ecosystem. But yet, as humans, we like, oh, well, I'm on the Louisville side. I'm not going to Indiana. Like, I'm just gonna stay over here. When like we are one region, and so this theme keeps popping up. I love that it keeps recurring. I think it's a great reminder on this show of like, how do we collaborate? How do we partner, not just with other organizations, but others within our regions to really help those that we serve? So appreciate you diving into that and giving us another chance to remind our audience of that concept.
Absolutely.
Lucas, let me lob something at you. Waving at me, Hannah?
You were supposed to let Lucas go at 30 minutes.
Oh, I'm
bye,
good.
Lucas.
I'm good. I got 10 more. 10 more.
Great. Let me lob
Lob
an
it.
idea at you over the fence.
That's really long.
He is that way, very far away. You touched
it finally hit.
Nice. I'm having too much fun.
I feel like I'm at the bank and putting money in, and it's going up the tube, and it takes forever, and it gets stuck, and you never get. Yeah.
Yes.
By the way, I was at the baseball game, and there was a stray ball that flew over the net, bounced off of someone's like hand or head or something, and I caught it. And I gave it to Paige, and Paige did a very nice thing, which was give it to a kid that was asking for it. But now we don't have a baseball, so it's fine.
That's what adults are supposed to do. And the adults that don't do that drive me absolutely insane. There's this guy, I forget his name. He's all over YouTube, right? And he has a thing for collecting baseballs from Major League games. And he will bring this giant net around, and the players will be throwing a ball to a kid. And it's clearly like the player will point, hey, kid, you. And they'll throw the ball, and it's like you see it slow motion coming at the kid. And then all of a sudden, this guy in his net comes swooping in, and he takes the ball and he runs away.
That's silly, right?
Yeah, I know.
Which was great. Paige did a fantastic thing, and then we went to the gift shop and bought a ball for $8, and now we have a ball. So it's great.
There you go.
Okay, the idea that I lobbed before this this tangent on exploding balls was, you touched on this, Lucas, as a function of your time and your staff time in the chamber. You guys do this ecosystem navigation type of work, right? You point people at the right resources, you know them, you connect them, you have built up trust already between resources in the community. Now, we see that there are models for this. The state of Indiana has ecosystem navigators that are paid staff, paid positions, one in each of their 10 regions. And they, within Indiana, sit within SBDC. And so they're SBDC employees funded by the state. I don't know how that works. I think SBDC is federal, right? But something somehow that works. But we know the folks that kind of stood up that program, so we can chat with them and see how that works. But I wonder if there is a pathway for some sort of funding to do that within chambers, and every chamber or many chambers have ecosystem navigators by role, who are ecosystem builders, who are connectors, who are these type of folks. And what does it take to get there for a chamber, and how does it make sense for the chamber to do that?
That's a really, really, really good, deep question that we could talk about probably for the next 5 hours, Richard. Unfortunately, I don't have 5 hours, so I'll try to make my answer concise. I think it starts with people recognizing the title of ecosystem builder as a legitimate title. Like you would have someone who has a PhD after their name on their LinkedIn profile, somebody who has an MD, a DO, PA, so on and so forth. I'm pulling everything from the medical field, but you could go Esquire, right, with legal counsel and whatnot. But I think it starts there. We're getting the community, the greater community, and the world to recognize this is a legitimate profession. And I think we're just starting that process as we see case studies like Indiana, coming up with, hey, this is really valuable. And hopefully they can be a model program for the rest of the country and the world, right? To say, this is legit. These are hardworking people, they're knowledgeable people and valuable people, right? That contribute heavily to the regions that they service. You and I have talked about, what if we could get one champion, right? An ecosystem champion from each region of New York State. And what if we could find, a fiscal sponsor, right? Or supporter, philanthropist from each area of the state, each region. And imagine if each one of them gave $10 million, right? Just throwing a number out there. You'd have $100 million. I don't know where you'd host it or hold it, to do good across New York State, not from tax dollars, not controlled by government regulations. And the government serves a good role with regulating. I don't want it to seem like I don't believe in regulation, because regulation keeps people safe. It ensures things are done ethically. But at the same time, it does come with a lot of red tape, especially in New York State, and it slows down progress. And I think with good ethical people in positions of authority and power, who want to do good for communities, which tend to be ecosystem builders, I would like to think, right? 9 times out of 10, using regional chambers to launch and use them as a launch pad for getting ecosystem builders out into the community makes a lot of sense. I also think Hannah brings this up too a lot with the positioning of chambers. Before the Affordable Care Act, people joined chambers for health insurance. Since the Affordable Care Act, we've seen our membership drop 300 members. COVID hurt a couple hundred more. We used to be a 1,200 member organization. So between a pandemic and between some legislation change, we've seen our numbers cut in half. That's not like a single situation. That's happened across the country. We as an industry need to determine and position ourselves uniquely as to what benefit do we bring to the community, right? And Hannah and I have talked about this. And chambers are kind of at a crossroads, because chambers used to be Yelp, right? But now Yelp exists. We might be Yelp still in a way, with deeper connections, a trusted resource, the history, all of the things that we've already talked about today. But I think this leads into the question of, what is the future of chambers, and how do we move forward as an industry? And I'm very excited to be going to ACE, and having that come up next week, because that's a topic of conversation that's on the agenda. There's going to be a session on that. And how do we position ourselves, each one of us that attends this conference, for success? And I think that adding a role like an ecosystem builder as part of your membership retention team, right? As part of your, maybe it's a mixed role, membership engagement and government community relations. You could combine those roles and essentially say, that's an ecosystem builder, right? And you put somebody strong in that role, and maybe you can reduce, overall overhead and staff costs. Maybe you can combine talents and positions to be more efficient from a budgetary standpoint, because that's something we all think about. We're 501c6 organizations. We are membership-based nonprofits. So Richard, you're posing a great question, and I've talked for 5 minutes now, so I'm going to shut up. But I think that this is a topic that could be its own podcast or its own show. So maybe we talk about this more detailed in the future. I'd love to try to get Chet on this to talk about his vision for collaboration and community, because ultimately, whether he realizes it or not, that's something that is he's talking ecosystem building, right? And so with Chet being a well-known name in the Capital Region, philanthropist, for those who don't know who Chet is, founded a company called Albany Molecular. It was bought out by Curia Global, and he sold it, and it made a substantial amount of money. And he and his wife Karen have done the right thing in every way you look at it, and just continued to support this region. So donations, you'll see buildings, you'll see hospital wings, you'll see Planned Parenthood centers, everything in between that they've contributed to through their foundation. So I think he'd be a really interesting guest that once we have a conversation with him, we should bring him on.
You'll have to ask, though, if
Absolutely.
he gives baseballs to children. We have to confirm that
Yeah,
he's in
that is
fact
a very-
doing the right thing.
You are absolutely right. If he doesn't give that ball, then my whole perception might change. No, I'm joking. We love Chet.
It's
He's a great guy.
prerequisite. And I feel like, Austin, that's our like question we have to ask everyone now. Do you give baseballs to children when you catch them?
I do like that question.
I
Yeah.
know, Lucas, I know you got to run, but we got one last question that we ask every guest on the show. So if you'll answer that for us,
Yeah,
you are dismissed
absolutely.
afterwards. Austin, will you ask? You're the question asker.
All right. So we've heard a lot of perspectives from you, but the one we want to kind of end on is, how do you define what an ecosystem builder is, or what ecosystem building is?
That's a loaded question. I had no prep on this. You're putting me on the spot, but I'll give it my best shot. And, when I think of ecosystem building, and Austin, I just met you today, but I can already feel, and we're virtual, right? I can feel the energy and enthusiasm, passion, right? And I think that that is key. You get people who, do great stuff. I look at Empire State Development as an example of this. They're great people. They do a lot of good for the state of New York. They're not clock punchers. I don't want people to think that's what I'm saying. But ultimately, they have a job, right? And they are employed to do a role for the state, and they do a great job of it. And they build genuine connections through that job. I think an ecosystem builder extends that beyond 9 to 5. I think an ecosystem builder is a perspective. It's a thought process. It's a way of thinking, and it's in your DNA almost. It's ingrained in how you process the world and information you take in, and the energy and information you give out to the world. Fred Miller of Khalil Jameson Consulting Group always asks, when we do sessions, he does our strategic planning and he comes in for our leadership program, how are you as a person on Earth? And I think a great answer to that could be, I'm an ecosystem builder on Earth. And that combines a variety of facets and skill sets and abilities. I'm going to bring that back to a 4th grade project in art class that I did. I still remember this to this day. It hung on my parents' wall for many, many years. And it was a picture of your hand. And then I don't know who the artist was, but I was a huge Yankees fan. So I made it blue and white for a pinstripe. Go Yanks, go New York. Right. But then with it, there were sections. So you colored each section, a certain percentage or not, right? Left it blue or white. And each one of those percentages added up to a part of who you were, right? It was a who am I art project and poem. And this has stuck with me even till today. I'm 27. So it's stuck with me for whatever that is, 17, 18, 19 years. And I sit there and I'm like, holy cow, this is really cool, because an ecosystem isn't just one thing. It's a mindset. And it's a lot of facets and attributes that make up that. So you might be 10% connector. You might be 5% scholar. You might be 25% innovative, right? You might be 10% strategic. And all of that is what combined makes an ecosystem builder.
I love that. I want to I want to dive into parts of that, but I know that we're coming up on your time. I think one thing that you said, well, actually, I want to be respectful of your time.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think diving into like the enthusiasm, the more than 9 to 5, like I think when we're talking with our startup week team, like for me, it's like, I don't want to tell the team, hey, do these tasks. Like I want them to like, okay, what would be really cool for our environment, right? Like, and I think that is like the ecosystem builder of just like, all right, like there's no playbook for this. We are literally all making it up as we go. But in the making it up, it is fueled by the passion. It's fueled by the care of our community, but also it's fueled by possibility and the ability to dream. And I think that in itself is fueled by us helping others dream. And so why can't we also, when we're helping others realize their dreams, be the ones to also dream about our community and just get really creative and funky and weird with our ideas, but like have fun in the process with how do we help our ecosystem grow and build. And And then that makes it really easy to be passionate and push past 5 o'clock, because you just get so heads down on the work. So I think the passion part is not been something that we've heard in other answers, Richard, but definitely something that strikes a chord with me, and I think it's the difference. It can definitely be a difference of someone that is like helping out to someone that is building, because you just have that innate passion and desire.
Absolutely.
And we see that as CN.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you guys having me on today. First, I want to thank you both. Thank Hannah for hopping on with me and being brave and bold enough to, put ourselves out there on the spot. Richard, thank you for doing that for me, because I come from an environment where, as an organization that's forward facing, and that, what we say and what we do really matters to the community. We like to be as planned and scripted as possible. I think it's really important to be able to also talk off the cuff and just kind of say how you feel. And really, that's where people's true feelings, passions, viewpoints come to life. And thank you for letting me express those today.
Of course.
I think you crushed it. I just hearing you go off the cuff was like so fun. Like, I can see and hear your passion and your creativity in this work. And like, I've honestly not talked to other people in chambers that speak about it the way you do. And so I've really enjoyed hearing your perspective. And so glad that Richard has us connected.
Awesome.
I'm so lucky. I get to hang out with Lucas every week. It's so fun.
That's
We
awesome.
just like have these conversations all the time, and I love it.
Lucas, I have to endorse you on LinkedIn for public speaking. That was, you're here.
Well, shout out to Hudson Valley Community College, where I took a public speaking class. We'll give no clue who my professor was, but and we could talk about. We could talk about Hudson Valley another day and what they're doing for the ecosystem, because it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. A model community college for the country to really model their programming after. And I'm gonna shut up because I really do gotta hop off here. But thank you everybody so much. It's been a pleasure.
Have a great weekend.
I'd love to come back on and at some point and talk more ecosystem building.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lucas. Enjoy your weekend.
Take care, everybody. We'll talk soon.
Bye. Really great. That was wonderful.
Hannah. That was wonderful. Are you sticking around, Hannah? Do you have time?
I'm here. You can have me like for another 20 minutes.
Great. I mean, same question to you though, right? Like, you got to answer the same question. What is whatever Austin asks?
I mean, could he ask it again though?
Yeah.
I can ask it again. So the question we like to ask every guest is, to you, what is an ecosystem builder, or what is the ecosystem building?
Okay. Sort of in the context, I guess, of like business ecosystem building. Or, systems of people, I suppose, that we're going to label as business because, Western culture, that's cool. My garden club is, they also are an ecosystem, and nobody makes money at the garden club. So I take a little bit of a conscious capitalist angle to my belief about like what it is to do this work of listening intently, thinking deeply, sharing freely of yourself about other people's things they hold dear. And like, why do? We do in part because we believe that capitalism is a tool for mobility and like creating more abundance, as opposed to just a tool to create like more for ourselves, or, harness the power of more of other people's resources. Like my very, very best friend, who is extremely remarkably clever and is getting a master's in media, knows a lot about capitalism and it's like technical, definition and its historical implications. And one of the things that as an academic, she has not necessarily done is live in these spaces with these people who are looking to access entrepreneurial or small business loans or resources, who are trying to start, you know, a business as a form to give themselves for their first like secure form of employment that they've maybe ever had. Like when we think about capitalism in the context of academia, like and the broader systems, it is not generally speaking a tool for individual good. When we think about capitalism wielded by people to improve the abundance of their immediate environment, community, if they're opting into one, then like, yeah, I wholeheartedly believe in that. And that is why I ecosystem build. An ecosystem builder is somebody who is leveraging capitalism to create abundance for their immediate community, in my opinion, because they have to give a lot of themselves in order to do that. So like they have to have a why. And I feel like almost any ecosystem builder, maybe I'm wrong, but most like business minded ecosystem builders would back into this belief that like when we build together, we win together, as opposed to like this being a zero sum game. And capitalism is a stack the resources and claim them for yourself and put them to work for you kind of thing. So it's like a belief in it being a tool for economic mobility. I believe that people individually can wield it as a tool for great economic mobility for others by building systems and communities that support others. I guess they're ecosystems.
That was dense.
You go first. You go first.
No, that was dense. I like it. That was dense. That was all. Austin, you go.
No, it wasn't dense at all. No.
So one part that I really resonate with is like, what does it look like to not just like build wealth and pull resources, but to almost like have some element of the greater good? Like, how does this impact our community? And I think, especially probably with your background, you can probably relate to this. We had a prospect client for our marketing agency, and she was on paper for capitalism a successful entrepreneur. And she was like, hey, I'm about to launch this new brand. We're going to do an e-commerce store for like fishing. I don't even know the word, just like fishing lures, I guess would be the best way to describe it. And so in our intake process, we ask a lot of questions. We like to get into why, because we are very mission oriented ourselves. And we kind of uncovered that she was like, well, I did research and there's like high margins on these. And so I'm just here to make a buck. And I was like, I am no longer excited about this project. I'm no longer excited to like work with you. Like it was like sheerly transactional. And that was really hard for me. And I'd be curious, like, have you had prospects, or how do you handle situations where it's very clear that maybe helping this person out or taking on this client isn't actually benefiting anyone? Like it's kind of sole purpose is like money creation. Like there is no like world problem being solved. I don't know.
Is the question for me or for Richard?
It's for you, but I'd be curious, Richard. I know we're very similar in this. So I
have a personal ethos on people's helpability. And so I feel like if you want to give Richard like a chance to respond before I soapbox, then you could do that.
All right.
I like it. When you soapbox, usually it's good hot takes.
I love it. It was great. I've enjoyed them so far.
Austin, can we get some sound effects for like ding, good hot take, and like bad take somewhere?
That'd be so fun. That's really hard to search for a good hot take. I'll do my best.
Sure. Meanwhile, I love it when people do things that are mission driven, that are good and impactful, that we can get behind. Right. And I love that. People also do need to make money. and in our capitalistic world, I'm too big. I don't like being big out here. Okay. In our world, we need money to pay the bills. And so I've touched on this in previous episodes and in other conversations. But when we do things that are valuable for someone, for some organization, for the community, um, then we should find ways to capture value from that. Oftentimes for ecosystem builders, it ends up being like social capital or relationship capital or like goodwill or things like that, and not necessarily, unfortunately, financial capital and money, right? And we see that across the field. Folks like, how do I make a sustainable living doing ecosystem building things and making introductions and relationships and helping support founders and organizations? And so, I have evolved my thinking over time um, to that. One, if you are doing something, then it should be beneficial and helpful and create value. If not, stop doing it, obviously, right? That's a bad thing to do. Stop doing that. Two, now if part one is true that you're creating value for someone, let's figure out a way to capture some of that value and make money, which is not a bad thing because it enables us to do more things, other things, and create more impact. And so I think going back to your example and conversation in a long, winding way, I had a similar conversation a few months back with someone, a student at our local university, met him at an event, and a entrepreneur and business owner in his own right, but really just like min-maxed making money because he didn't care about anything else. Um, and that rubbed me also the wrong way, like it did you, right? And they like would do things that maximize the amount of financial money they got without any care for if what they were doing um, was mission driven or supported whatever the community or made impact. And so, in a very long, twisting, winding way, I am saying, yes, I like mission, but also let's make money. Okay, Hannah, soapbox, please.
So you were responding to, I guess, the question of like, what is ecosystem building versus how do you decide if someone's helpable, or like how do you decide where to dispense resources?
I don't know. I just like things fell in my brain. So
That's totally fine. I like them. I am going to speak on how I sort of administrate my resources as like that what I consider to be my resources as an ecosystem builder, because I tend to do not the kind of like I am not the a ecosystem builder who is currently wielding an ecosystem. I am a very strong individual contributor to ecosystems, and so I am capable of building really great closed small personal environments, both like on demand at events and then digitally over longer periods of time, because I'm quite good at creating like a cultural vibe where people feel valued for what they genuinely bring to the table, which requires seeing what that is and then like telling it to them and then being like, yeah, that is me. And then I'm like, and we need you here because this. And they're like, and I will stay. And I'm like, I want you here, please stay. So there's this feedback loop that I and so that is a thing that costs me nothing. That where I stay on track, Hannah. That is the thing that costs me nothing, and I do that freely, regularly, all of the time. And that is why Richard likes me or liked me initially, is because I think initially he spotted me and he was like, she's a vibe curator of initial conversations. I like to help people with their pitch. I'm a go-to-market person, so I want to think about the way that you're going to monetize something and talk to you about maybe the sort of questions that I would have pondered that you would have asked your ICP. And if you don't have a good question answer to like my question, then that's maybe free advice for you and you can throw it away. And I hope it didn't offend you. But like ultimately, that is also still my contribution to ecosystem building, is my radical honesty that I contribute to people regularly in entrepreneurial environments. It's like, this is my 10 cents. If it is trash, I'm 0% offended, but like, this is what I think. And I give that freely. The kind of help that I gate heavily is behind like a 30-minute consultation where I decide if someone's helpable. What does helpability mean? I'm a go-to-market engineer who can do like very like digital marketing from like a campaign oriented. I want to launch a startup like I did my own full, like brand suite and the tooling brand. We can do it. But I also do in-person sales. And so like, how do you package sales enablement? How do you decide what the right amount of context is for an ask? Like I can help people with a really wide variety of asks when you're a startup person who's like, I need to sell in person. What does that look like? I've never done that before. And I'm like, well, this is my experience having done it in SaaS specifically for 5 different companies in person at conferences across the US as like a fairly young person who's had some success. And it's fun and I like doing it. And I can only help people who are willing to do things they don't want to do that are uncomfortable and take sometimes the hard way out because it's the only way out. Not fun at all. As a startup founder, I'm one of those people who I'm like, true things sound true. If I learn a true thing that I don't like, it doesn't make it any less true. That's your new reality. Please adjust and move forward accordingly. And so I will have this meeting with people where I'm like, this looks like the shape of your problem. Do you see it that way? And do you see maybe like this kind of shape solution that maybe is sort of drastic is probably the correct way to address that? And that is maybe not what they like wanted to see or hear. Often with marketing, people think that they're maybe doing better than they are, or they think that, they're worse off than they are, or the problem is separate than they thought it was. Like oftentimes in marketing, there's some brutal conversations that have to happen. And if people want to come to those conversations with sort of a like protective air of like, well, I'm going to take your advice and then see what we do with it, that is not a helpful person. And so that unfortunately, when as an ecosystem builder, I am signing on for like as much help as I can offer somebody, which is access to like my own services, the services of the people who I would vouch for, of like, I would love if you could give someone a friends and family rate. I would love if you could look at something for someone or even just have an informational interview for them before I volunteer the resources of others or extensive access to my own time. I have to make sure that somebody is willing to be brutally honest with themselves and me about the reality of things. We have to agree on what things are. And sometimes, oftentimes, most of the time, people cannot agree with me on what things are. And so I often do not administer these kinds of services, only a few people a year. So yeah.
So fair. So good.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very good.
Thanks.
To your point of when I first met you, I'm like, oh, there's a helper. Right. And I think a lot of us are. And wearing a Techstars shirt right now, it's all the like give first philosophy. Which I, yes, fully subscribe to. Like, how do we help and support and give freely? But then with guardrails, like you mentioned, Hannah, because we can't give everything and have nothing to ourselves from an empty cup. Cool.
On that note, I have a word of warning or an experience. I haven't really gotten to like, I want to talk about this here as like a startup, a word for the startup world. On my personal background, I have been startup-y in New York City, a previous Brooklynite who relocated last year to Schroon Lake. We're still in the city on a fairly regular basis, but we do call north of the capital region, so the North Country, the Adirondacks, technically home. When I visit the city for things like Tech Week, I know you mentioned Austin at the beginning of the call. I was an attendee of the New York City Tech Week and went to some founder networking events. Found that people sometimes are a little transactional, taken some transactional energy in the city that I have felt a lot less of at given less prestigious events here, up north, maybe, but like, fund hosted things in the city where you're supposed to bring together a larger group of founders, where there's maybe people who feel like they should guard their time in person against access to somebody. Like that's the kind of thing where if you show up in person in an environment that is like startup branded, you should be game to talk to everybody for a fairly reasonable amount of time. Like there's a respect for the humanity of it all. I had a fun little story from a founder event where somebody was pitching me these exercise shorts. I've worked in health tech. Doing go-to-market, selling into provider offices for hard tech specifically. So like this guy should really be interested in what I think about his shorts. He hasn't asked me a single question, so doesn't know anything about me, but he's been peddling these shorts for about 5 minutes because I keep asking him questions because I'm trying to identify the positioning and figure out if he could sell it as med tech. And I decided no. And I asked last question. And he's like, no more questions. Are you going to buy them or not? I'm not talking to you anymore.
there were other founders standing around who had watched me do what I do with other people, where I'm like, okay, these are all the things I know. Let me pitch this back to you. The last thing I do, of course, is usually I pitch back to people, and they can take from that what they do, but often they find, words that they maybe hadn't used to describe themselves that they like, or an angle that they hadn't thought of, like the coattails of goodwill. And so he didn't get his pitch back. And it was going to be really good because he decided I wasn't worth access to more of his time. And I've watched people, I know that happens to other people, but I will admit, up until Tech Week New York City this week, hadn't happened to me in a minute where someone was like, sorry, you aren't worth any more of my time. I'm like, ooh, in a non-sales capacity. Now, I will say one of the most brutal things about being a founder, doing founder-led sales in the field, has been the number of times that people have asked me to like leave their local grocery store because they think I'm peddling software for some mega corp and I'm just not willing to fess to it. Yeah. So like bringing in, I think even whether you identify as an ecosystem builder or not, one of the things that I like want to like stake my flag on in startup land is this, like, be nice to people. Everybody deserves to be here. Maybe you feel like you deserve to be here more, and maybe you do, but the space that you are occupying is equally for everyone. And I know you guys agree with me. Thanks for giving me the platform to say it.
Oh yeah.
Ding. You got that sound effect? Ding.
So no, I got.
Yes, we'll take it.
It's not.
And then also like help an ecosystem builder if you can. Like if you can't be one, help one. Do your penance.
So there's.
It's like a big, massive yes.
Yeah, just big
like
wisdom. Big wisdom.
Well, we'll figure it out for next time. No, so good, Austin.
Yeah, I think in that, one thing we're trying to figure out locally is how do we engage our founders and our startups that are much further along to still engage in the ecosystem when, and get them to events when they're like, this is not going to provide any value to me. It's like, it's not for you. No, it's not. I agree. You should still show up because like you have a role in this now. You are now leading other startups and you have things to offer those that aren't as further along as you. And so I'd be curious, you being a founder yourself, right? And Richard, even curious how you all are approaching this, as how do you pull those folks back in who, the event's not for them. They know this, but how do you get them to the event so that they can share their wisdom and experience with other founders?
I mean, the universal answer is the person they owe favors to is to ask them to go. And that's usually like to decide who that is. It can be hard with startups, depending on your environment, if you don't have access to who that person is or know who they are. The other would be sponsors that they're interested in. So like I went to some events because they were sponsored by, we'll say I went to some great Mercury events because I'm a Mercury customer. But like I would maybe have gone to another type event of a vendor event because I was like, I genuinely like maybe want to meet someone who vends here and would like to learn more. So I feel like there are things that we can do strategically to give ourselves the best chance of drawing that audience, but how to actually get them there in like a way that is beyond just increasing our chances of conversion. It would be that like have somebody make the ask who's equipped to do so and then determine if that's a carrot or a stick ask. And if you are equipped as the original ask maker to help supply the carrot and or the stick. That is one of the things that I look to do is like, how do we incentivize people in a way that helps benefit everybody? Because again, like when I, as a person who does a lot of sales minded things, like I see sales as bringing resources to places that need them. Because if that is not the capacity I'm fulfilling as a salesperson, I'm selling the wrong thing, should have moved on from that a second ago. So when we seek to bring new people or people of resource back into community, it could be difficult unless we have a carrot or a stick. So I always try to see if I can't help supply one. I think it's hard. What kind of organization are we talking about here specifically for you, context-wise?
I think like overall, I have a few founders and startups in mind in town that I'm just like, hey, like you never come out to events. We never see you. Like you got all this like, attention from the media, and then like a lot of support in your early days, and you disappeared. And it's not a I disappeared because I'm heads down. It's a like there's nothing for me here kind of mentality. I don't know if that answers your question.
It
Try not
does.
to
And I
like
would wonder if there
name
were
names.
resources that like you connected people to. That makes sense. If there are resources that you have connected people to that they have an ongoing relationship with. So like I think about in New York City working for venture funded startups, how whenever one of the startups is having like a sales type panel event, they get the like Signal Fires of the world, get all of their other orgs to like, I'll send a panelist from this, I'll pull somebody from your portfolio who is like well equipped to speak on this panel for this sales event, for this org, for this other people. And, you know, they pull and they borrow. I wonder oftentimes that becomes a request that Signal Fire issues to founders that's like, hey, on behalf of us, please go and be a panelist at this thing, or even just be an attendee at this thing. That is something that I even myself, having been like a worker it shares a space with an incubator program, it can be very normal for within startups and like entrepreneurial environments to be like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours in exchange, just like for you use this space regularly with 2 weeks notice, some of your employees, please put it on the corporate calendar. Like, we would like people to come to this happy hour. And like, yeah, we would go down. We would make sure that like at least a couple people from the company could show up. Like 2 out of 5 usually is what we got there, which was so much better than nothing. And they would have gotten
Right.
0 if it wasn't on the company calendar, and it wouldn't have been on the company calendar if it not come in an email specifically requesting that it go on the company calendar. So I
Gotcha.
feel like that was somebody made the ask, they figured out, they said stick.
Yep.
We're not offering a carrot. We don't have any carrots, but we will give a very specific ask, which is put this on the calendar and ask people to go to it if they can. So like they supplied, it would be better if you could find a carrot, but yeah, I hear you. That'd be my 10 cents.
Very similar. Absolutely, right? I think a couple concrete examples of these folks, not necessarily startup founders, but maybe folks in the ecosystem, who should go to events, who maybe the event technically has nothing there for them because they're later stage or later past that. You know, a couple of verticals of thought. One, is there a way you create a win-win that draws them back in, that is helpful for them to be there? Can you attract investors or partners or XYZ so that they do now want to be there? Can you spotlight them as an expert and do like mentorship sessions and they become the mentor? So that's like one kind of structural event change type of category of thing you could do. Another one was a concrete example was 1 Million Cups. We had a presenter. He's working on an app that helps field service teams easily report back to HQ about any issues, any change orders, things like that. And you know, whenever we have presenters and I have a clear understanding of what they're doing, who they're looking to speak with or get feedback from, I'll reach out to my network and personally invite them to come. And all these busy folks will say yes because I asked, right? Like Hannah mentioned, you know. So I reached out to a guy who runs a IT company, MSP, has field service workers, could give good feedback on this app, this platform, and he's like, yeah, oh yeah, I met this guy the other day. Thanks for reminding me. I'll show up at 1 Million Cups and give him some feedback. And he came, gave really great feedback. They hung out for a bit, and they gone out to a coffee or something. And so, like, directly curating and making that ask where appropriate and where useful for the startups that are in the room, or the founders in the room, for them to benefit is another vertical I see here. And then, like, how do you, in general, create the culture and this flywheel of the community has given me so much, let me show up to the event and support. And that's a big structural 3 to 5 year culture change. That is a big beyond one person type of ask that everyone needs to shift towards. And we see that with ecosystems. Like, the very poignant one that I point to is Buffalo and ACV auctions. And they were upstate New York's first unicorn. IPO'd 3.85 billion, and back in like 2021, 2022, they did like auto tech and stuff like that. And so a lot of their early employees and founders and associated folks do stuff to support Buffalo's ecosystem. And from that, there came a $100 million foundation that will perpetually, by charter and by mission, support Buffalo's entrepreneurship ecosystem. That's really cool.
That is really neat. So I think related to this conversation is, how do we raise sponsorships and dollars for the work that we do and the events that we put on without NASCARing our events, where it's like, okay, how do you bring on sponsors when we're not going to give them a list of people and contact information, right? And sell that data. But moving our sponsors from, hey, this is a big marketing play, to, hey, I'm contributing to our ecosystem, I'm supporting the local ecosystem. Like, I think this is a related conversation to what we've talked about, which is like, you don't I guess you could apply carrot and stick in creative ways, but yeah, curious how you are handling like building ecosystem through sponsorships without having to promise everything under the sun because it's a marketing play, and they're used to sponsorships that are like, you get all these placements, and if you get this tier, you get all these placements. Like, are you all doing anything creative for that?
The example I point to is Startup Tech Valley, our pitch night that we've built over the past 13 years. It's all sponsor funded. We never give out our lists, our attendees, and sponsors know that. And when they ask, we say no. We thank them and spotlight them. And we do say we can't do this without their support, which is literally true. And we make it really easy for them to engage. We make it a lower price point. We try to go for volume instead of volume of sponsors for a small dollar amount instead of a couple of sponsors for a large dollar amount, which we found over trial and error works better. And then we do give them time to speak at events above a certain tier. And many of them do come up and just say how much they want to support the ecosystem and a little bit about what they do. But they are all just great community partners that we've kind of made the ask to. And I just had this conversation yesterday on a rooftop, actually, because we don't have a bank sponsor or a credit union sponsor yet, which you would think is a natural fit for a pitch event where startups exist, where they want commercial accounts. And so the ask I made wasn't, hey, will you be a sponsor, to the bank folks that we kind of knew on this rooftop at this event, which was very fun yesterday. Yeah, we did oysters and spritz on a rooftop.
I saw your
opening of
picture and I was very jealous.
Yes.
It looked like a blast.
So cool. So there were a couple of bankers who were associated with the Rensselaer Chamber, who were members or ambassadors or folks floating around. So I kind of knew them. And the ask wasn't, hey, will you sponsor this event? It was, hey, XYZ person, can I pick your brain? Can you help me figure out how to access sponsorships from banks? How does that process work? And how might we be able to engage a bank sponsor? What do they look for? And so she was like, oh, here's the long and short of it. Here, you send in the form. Here's what it looks like. Here's the process. Like, what do you have in mind? Like, what are you thinking about? So I briefly explained Startup Valley, and she was really interested. She's like, send me the sponsorship sheet. Maybe we can do something, right? And so it was really coming from a place of, how does this process work? And it may end up in a sponsorship, which is really cool.
I like that. Hannah, any thoughts, comments on this?
It's very name the need coded. Can't get what you don't ask for. Well, so as a person who is usually the one who's in charge of making sure that the logo is sized and formatted and correctly displayed and goes everywhere it's supposed to, and that it's showing up the contractually required number of times, or else I'm coming after you for a benefit at something else because you owe me, and my boss is going to appreciate that I figured that out for them. I do not think that we should think about it as NASCAR-esque branding, because that is lazy. It is lazy. And so to be upset with the lazy way that we've taken out is to be upset with like modern marketing. Marketing has a marketing problem. AI posters are not the answer, nor will whatever comes after that be the answer. I think that we should think more interestingly about the stories that we tell
and how we invite people to be part of them when we think about sponsorship. I think we really should think about strategic sponsorships where folks have value that can be realized on both sides.
Mhm.
And then being choosy, letting people spotlight. This requires a lot of flexibility. You know, like you can't be a corporate magazine and decide you're going to completely rework the way that you do sponsorship. But if you are a smaller organization that has the ability to really be creative in the way that you do sponsor spots, like do it. Create your own content, hire someone to do it, let the sponsor do it, give them a very specific brief. That is actually something. So I am a longtime commissioner of influencer content, 0% filmer of influencer content. But I will hire you to film the influencer content for the person, and I will write it and you will record it and you will help workshop it because it does need to sound like you. And that's one of the things that I think I come back to is often when we let the advertiser decide what the statement is, it appears outside of context.
Yep.
And as the person guarding context, we have a job to provide what that context is supposed to be to the people we invite into the space, and that includes sponsors. But like, I'm a Priya Parker person, so I like, the art of gathering, like
what's your intention?
Inviting people in with intentionality. I see sponsors the same way I would a dinner guest in that way.
Yep.
If I'm hosting as a person who's also hosted customer roundtables that get sponsors, I think about almost everything that has sponsors the way I would think about a customer roundtable that I'm looking for sponsors for, which is that like, they need to be a really good fit. They need to be comfortable face-to-face with this client. They need to have something interesting to say on the topic. These people should have a legitimate, should be canned spam. Is there a reasonable expectation of hearing from you?
I love that.
Me? Yeah. Okay.
I definitely feel you.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'll be able to zoom in on this. 1 second.
Do magic.
On. Just lens, focus. Can you put me full screen?
Yeah, totally.
You.
Yep.
Can you see that?
Sure
Okay.
can.
So had someone in the ecosystem kind of reach out around like I was just doing a check-in with them of like, hey, how do you feel? And one thing they said was like, I have no experience with sponsorship. And so Hannah, you hit on this exactly. It was like sponsorship is vision casting and storytelling and inviting them in the story. So when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, like we just said that. So
literally,
that was like
wow.
really fun to just like hear that reiterated. Because at the end of the day, we are writing the story that is our community, and we're inviting different stakeholders into that story. And what role do each stakeholder want to play within the story? And we're all writing it together. So I really appreciate that.
Thanks for giving me time. This was a great time. We had such good time.
Yes.
You guys
Thank
obviously
you.
can
Thank you,
continue. And I'm not running away. I'm not running away. I'm just
not running off to the woods.
I mean, no, I am. I'm either going to go into the lake or I'm going to go up the mountain across from the lake because I tried to go on my running trail this morning and the first bridge is out. So we I don't know, it's been out. Truly, nothing is more potentially dangerous for my mental health than the infrastructure of the trail near my house.
Send pictures. So fun. We got to do a
Mhm.
retreat in the woods.
Ooh, that would be really cool.
Yeah, just like survival. So we can like think about survival.
I learned from a founder in town that someone has basically turned the concept of like Survivor and all these like shows of like surviving and alone and whatever, and they were a previous contestant, but they have turned that into a business where it is an experience where you pay them to go have that Survivor like experience where you're on one island for training and then they take you to the next island to see how well you do. And I'm like, that's really neat. That's really creative. I know there are people that would enjoy that. I will enjoy it from my air conditioner.
Weight loss camps that my friends as teenagers went to that sound a lot like that.
that
Sure.
that
You
would be an
train
experience.
in one place and get you moved
Yeah.
around. Yeah, I think that's wild. That's fun.
Yeah.
The things we
Well-
will do. But yeah, thanks for having me, you guys.
Oh, yeah,
Definitely
thank you for
appreciate
hopping
having you on.
on.
It's great
Like
to meet you.
literally. Yeah, thank you for literally last minute hopping on. So fun.
It was fun. Have a good one. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Have
Thanks.
a good
Bye.
one.
Bye.
See ya. All right. So this episode has given me a few ideas of some ways that we could like create some interesting opportunities in the future of like, as we interview people, we're taking notes of like who these people are or like what folks are experts at. Like we're hearing some recurring themes. But I would be curious, like over time, what if we did like a deep dive, either episode or series into, or even like almost like a mastermind discussion from like our audience to like join in and learn from around a topic like sponsorship. What are all the different ways we're all approaching sponsorship? How are we tackling, asking questions? What do you do for this? Or any of these elements, like doing a deep dive on marketing for ESOs, or how ESOs are using AI to take an understaffed organization and get a little bit more efficiency and support and get more things done out of it. And so like what would like these deep dive multi-person input experiences be? And then I'm like, oh well, it's an SCN summit.
That was my first thought when you came up with that. I was like, wait, I know this one. I know the answer for a question. No, so good. But also we could theme some of the episodes around these topics, right? Get a couple of these folks together. And then I went back to SCN Summit and plucked let's bring an ESO who needs marketing help on with one or more marketing experts
I
who
like
have done
that.
this. And then they have that conversation live on air.
That'd be really cool. What if we did a EBS live at a summit?
I'm in.
We can figure that out. Any
mean,
thoughts, reflections from today?
And that was super fun. The conversation around chambers gave me new perspective, which I did not expect it to, because I've been hanging out with Lucas and Hannah and chambers forever, for a while. And so, but chambers are ecosystem building organizations at the core, and their staff end up doing ecosystem navigation and ecosystem building and relationship building and connecting and all of these things without realizing it, right? Or like while realizing it, but without putting the label of ecosystem building on it ever. And so it really just is hey, this is like, there is a field for this and this is a thing. And I think Lucas notices that, recognizes that. He's going to try to come to SCN. So that'll be fun.
That would be super fun. Yeah, I had so many more questions for him, but I was like, I know you got to go. Some of them included, like, I just felt like he had such a great perspective of ecosystem building, supporting entrepreneurship from a chamber mentality. But like, how did he get there? And then how do other organizations that are like, that sounds great, but how do I get there? Like, how do I start to make that shift from where we're at, where we're focusing, whether that be on just mom and pop historicals or, recruitment of big companies? Like, what is the path to getting to where he's at, where there's such a great emphasis on startups and supporting entrepreneurship and venture backable ideas, and balancing that with the rest of the chamber and the region's priorities. So maybe I'll talk to him about that at SCN, maybe another episode. I don't know.
Go find him online, connect with him, and we'll bring him back on. I'm sure he's always happy to hop on and talk about things. And just like, just the kind of guy who just wants to share. And the thing he touched on, right? What is ecosystem building to him? And it really is, in other words of what Lucas said, it is mission, individual mission for a person instead of a job, which a lot of us relate to because you don't turn it off. And when you are out randomly somewhere, and the best example recently of this for me is on my birthday, Paige asked me what I wanted for my birthday. And I said, I want to not have to think about it. She did a fantastic job planning everything and getting all our friends together. And I was like, also make it cheap and not really expensive. And so we ended up in the capital region. And I don't know if Louisville has this, but there's a bunch of places that give you free stuff on your birthday.
Oh.
Oh, is that new?
I mean, like I know of big chains, right? You know, Chipotle, Starbucks,
Yeah.
Keto Mo's, all those. Yeah.
We have like small businesses and restaurants and bars and like things like that that do that too. And so we went to a bunch of different places. We did like a free food and drink crawl
That's fun.
around the region. Very well done. Thank you, Paige. Love you very much. One of the places, I got like a 36-inch slice of pizza, like literally
Oh my
this
gosh.
3 feet tall pizza for free.
What?
Yeah, at one of the places that I had to share with everyone because I could not finish it.
Yeah, that's huge.
I know. Very cool. But one of the unplanned stops was one of our friends knew that there was this outdoor open air market that happens twice a year on a big lawn next to a bar, right? And they have a big attached lawn. And so we stopped by, went to this outdoor like craft market, makers market. It was all handmade, homemade, small businesses, like their things and their crafts at this market. And I walked around. It was all really cool stuff, really great, all just small business owners and makers and doers selling their crafts. And ran into a guy making bags. It was like vibrant and colorful and beautiful. And they were like backpacks and satchels and, packs and all sorts of bags. Ended up chatting with him. His name's Pat. I asked him about his story, asked him about the bags. They were all inspired by his favorite places in the Adirondacks. He had like the topography maps sewn into them and
That's
embroidered
cool.
in them. And I we were launching Good Neighbor Fund and we were looking for applicants and we were like went around like to these small businesses and just mentioned it. And I was like, hey, like, there's this program that exists. And I think I asked Pat, what would you do if hypothetically you got $1,000 of a grant? Like, would that support and help your business? And he had such a great story of how he built this business over the past 4 years. The first 2 years, sleeping under the cutting table without running water in his garage day in and day out, building the business because he knew this was the thing he wanted to do for the rest of his life. And so he was spending a lot of time and effort and energy getting it off the ground. And now there's growing traction and folks are buying online and buying wholesale and folks are interested in buying a lot more of his bags, but it's just himself and his machines in a garage and he's hit his capacity and his max output. And so he is looking at bringing on an employee, but the challenge there is he didn't have a second sewing machine. So the employee can only do stuff in like when he wasn't, right? And so with $1,000, he could get a second machine and be able to fully utilize and support a new employee. I was like, you should really apply to Good Neighbor Fund. And like, that's a fascinating story. I love it. Please apply. Here's the link. And he applied. He ended up being our first grant recipient, first winner.
Wow.
It was amazing.
That's amazing.
I
Happy
know.
birthday. What a gift.
Thanks. What a gift.
Hold on. I need to bring this back up because that is the real gift.
The gift is the friends we made along the way.
For sure.
But you don't turn it off, right? Like it's not a 9 to 5. It was a Saturday. It was like randomly at a market I wasn't supposed to be at. That wasn't part of the plan for the birthday tour. Just met a guy and was like, oh, there's this cool thing. Let me connect you. Things fall out of my brain. And now Pat, with $1,000, he can get this machine. He can support his first employee. We did the launch party, 60, 70 people in the room. I asked him to bring his whole setup and do his like market table. So he sold a bunch of bags that day. And now he's connected into 1 million cups and now connected with the community. Now he's not building alone in a silo in his garage. He has a community that supports him well beyond that initial $1,000 grant for him. And so, so cool. I just enjoy that one.
The money was just a start, right? Like it was just almost a conduit that everything else could flow through. It's just a starting point of $1,000 plus community, plus distribution, plus connection. That's amazing.
Yeah. In like Mark Rober's words, that was like the head fake, right? Into everything. It was like the excuse to get everyone together, the impetus to do a launch party, to get the community together to support an entrepreneur and spotlight them. And yes, it helps, but it's way beyond that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that is also what fuels this work, right? Is like it's never just as simple as the event. It's never just as simple as the coffee with the founder or the check or the like. There's always so much more, and I think that's what can like hook folks into this work, but also be the rewarding part when it is hard work. Is that there is so much more to the one thing. This is a great episode. I've really enjoyed this.
Me too.
If you've stuck around for this long, let us know in the comments what you want next. What topics? We have a few openings in our upcoming slots, and we have an upcoming talk in August with Anjanette from Echo around. Gosh, there's so many places we could take that conversation, from youth entrepreneurship, 1 million cups, being a founder-led ESO, doing user-driven design system. I'm very curious to see where we take that conversation, because she can speak towards a lot of things. What does membership models look like for ESOs? How do you build that? ESOs that manage space plus programs, what does that look like? I don't know. AI and ESOs, I don't know. But regardless, subscribe, and Richard, close us out.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Come hang out every Friday live on air on YouTube. Ecosystem Builders Show, 3 p.m., 3:15 p.m. Eastern-ish. Depends how good we are and how on time we are, which is never.
Oh,
Thanks.
that's great. The studio. It's loud in here. So many people. Wow, this is really continuing to go. That's amazing.
What have you done?
Wow. Okay, we're gonna stop
Oh,
that.
okay.
All right. We'll see you all on next week's show, and have a great week. Peace. Get some music going. Okay, there we go.